Hello everyone, welcome to AvgJoeWatchReviews, where we do more than just reviews. Today, we're going to be talking about Alpina. And we're not talking about the German brand that produces and sells high-performance BMWs. No, we're talking about a company that was produced, or should I say founded in 1883, has an extremely rich history in the watch world. And they were actually the first Swiss company to produce highly reliable and robust sports watches for us to enjoy. So Alpina's been around for 137 years, and they're a watch company that, as I said, has an extremely rich history, but it's a brand that not everyone knows about. They're not a cheap watch. They're pretty much in $1,000 range or more. They do have many patents, and they always strive for the most latest and greatest technology when it comes to their movements. So they're sports watches to withstand extreme natural environments, especially in high altitudes, but also in great depths. So this is a really impressive statement here made by Alpina on their website. So as I said, these are not cheap watches, and when I held one for the first time, I have to admit that it really felt like a quality watch. Now, Alpina uses a term, the Alpinist principle, in their mission statement, but they don't explain what the Alpinist principle is. So I did a little bit of deep diving, which actually would be part of the Alpina watch brand, because they would be known for that as well. So no pun intended there, but what I found was that with these extreme sports, there's a lot of life and death decision making that takes place, and therefore the whole Alpina principle is good planning in the beginning all the way until you step off that mountain. And the way I take the Alpinist principle is that they have precise planning, and they're going to produce a product and be on their A game until that watch is completely finished and off the table. So that's my take on what the Alpinist principle is. If you guys know exactly what that is, please comment below. They're based out of Geneva, Switzerland, and they only use the highest skilled watchmakers in the industry. So this is a brand that I actually didn't know anything about, and I actually got this watch from J-City Reviews. He actually lent it to me for review, so I figure why not just dive right into the Alpina that I have today. All right, so here we go. This is the Alpina 1883 Geneve, and as you can see at the 12 o'clock position, there is that ever so famous triangle that Alpina is known for. And you have Alpina printed on the dial, 1883 Geneve, and it's an automatic Seastrong 300 meter, 1,000 feet of water resistance. So the case itself it has a very bronze look to it, but it's not actually bronze. So it's some type of plating that gives it that bronze look. And as you can see, that there's like a brushed bronze, and there's also more of a shiny bronze as well. So they have two different types, and even like if you could tell on the lug, right at the edge here, you can see that there is some polish there, some brushing here. Definitely a lot of detail just with the case alone. And this obviously adds to the manufacturing costs with the plating, the brushing, and the polishing on top of that. Pretty impressive, I must say. Once again, you'll see the triangle at the bottom crown, and you'll see more of a knurling pattern at the top crown. So what do these crowns do? Well, they're both screw down crowns, and as you can see, they each have the same type of edging, which definitely makes it easy for you, because they're actually a good size for you to grip and to twist. So the bottom one is actually going to wind your movement, and the winding is extremely precise. It feels a lot like my Breitling and my Omega. So kudos on here with the movement, because you could tell when just by winding a watch, when you get that tight, precise feel, even with the date function. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the time to a safe time to change the date, which is usually at 6 o'clock. So we'll do that, and I'm going to show you when you push it out, pull it out one click, that you can set the date. And again, setting the date, very, very precise. There's no, you don't see the date window loosely come into place. It's very just precise, and it's just one full turn each time. You don't have to like keep twisting and it, you know, decides to grab or not. This is full engagement here of the date wheel. We pull it out another click, and again, you feel that this is extremely tight. When you're going around here, the hands aren't loose. It's not like there's no play in it. You know, even here you can see there's no play. Like if I go here, the hand's not moving at all. The hand only moves when I'm moving the dial here, or the crown. So that's extremely impressive for a movement of this caliber, and something that you would expect at this price range. So in order to engage the pusher back in, you just push it in and you twist it back in for the water resistance, and there you go. Now the top crown, now if I said pusher, I meant crown. The top crown here, again, is a screw down, and as you can see, instead of having an outer bezel that can get scratched and just, you know, faded over time, this one here has an inner bezel. And I do like these little inner bezels. I find them to be pretty useful. And this one is, as you can see, bi-directional. So you can actually put this one or set this one both ways. I think the only gripe that you would have with an inner bezel is that it doesn't have that tactile feel. Like when you're moving a bezel, you don't typically have to look at it in order to set it, because you can basically feel each click, and you can also listen for it. So there is none of that feel or listening, that auditory clicking for you here. So you have to obviously rely solely on your sight, and of course you would need to be very precise. So, you know, there is no, I would have liked to seen, because like you see the arrow here at this pip. If you're really going to set them, be precise, I would have liked to see more of the minute markers maybe on the inner bezel or the inner dial or the inner part of the dial here, so that I could be extremely precise to say this is exactly at 51 as opposed to is at 52, 53. Like when you're diving, you want to be really precise. So I'm thinking that maybe just as an improvement, instead of putting the minute markers on the bezel itself, put it right here where the arrow would be pointing. But I mean, in this case, you're really going to be precise at every 5 minutes. So you got 5, 10, and so on. So just a small little gripe, in my opinion. I mean, this may not bother anybody else. So, and then we just set that right back in. Let's take a look at the dial itself, because as you can see, it's a really beautiful sunburst brown dial, and it has Alpina actually stamped on, as you can see. So Alpina brand is stamped onto the dial. And if I can get a closer look without any type of reflection, there we go, here's a better look at it. So yeah, we're actually printed on, this is printed on, this is all printed. Me, again, you know, there's no such thing as a perfect watch. And for me, I would have liked to have seen Alpina maybe like the same type of applied logo as they did with the 12 o'clock. I think it just gives it a little bit of more of a premium look, but it also kind of gives the dial a little bit more depth as well, in my opinion. So I would have at least liked to have seen Alpina applied just like the hour markers here, because all of these they're actually the same color as the dial. It looks like the hour markers here. They may be more of a, I mean, they're probably more of like a gold, but also being next to the brown dial is also making them look more brown, but they are gold indices, and that is a nice touch. It really is. Now, I know a lot of watch people that don't like just indices because they can't tell the time. All right. A lot of people that I know, they have to have numbers. And there's some watches that don't even have indices and people just cannot tell the time at all. I don't understand this because this is very clear to me that it's 8:15. But again, that's just some people's taste. So as we could see down here, we have the automatic. It's a Seastrong 300 meter, 1,000 feet water resistance. So this thing definitely you can go diving with, not a problem. So you can see the beautiful sunburst pattern here in the direct sunlight. Very beautiful. You can just see that reflecting off really nicely. Now this is powered by the Alpina Calibre AL-525 Automatic, which is based on the Sellita SW200-1, 26 joule movement, and 38 hour power reserve. And this is indeed Swiss made. And you do have the date window, as we said, outlined in gold for the window box. The minute hand here is an impressive arrow. I do like that look. It does remind me of a lot of my Omega Planet Ocean, which actually has it at the hour hand. But this definitely is a unique look. And as you can see, there's full lume on these hands, and also the second hand. This is one of my favorite style second hands. I love the look of this, and I love how it comes directly to each marker. So when we turn the watch over, as you can see, this does have a standard twist off caseback, and a simple caseback removal tool will get this off. No reason to do so since this is an automatic, and I wouldn't tinker around with a $1,000 watch being an automatic. So definitely no reason to open this up unless you wanted to take a look at the movement and see exactly how decorated it is. As you guys know, I love to have exhibition casebacks so that there is no need to open up your caseback to see what your movement looks like. Because like a lot of car guys, we like to open up the hood and see what's under the hood. And I feel the same way with watches. I feel like, you know, if we shouldn't be opening the hood, which I don't think we should, you should at least maybe put a glass display like they do in Ferraris, and you can see the engine, and therefore there's no reason to open up the hood and start tinkering around. So let me get off my soapbox there and get back to, I love this symbol here. And of course you have the Alps, the Alp Mountains, Alpina, all goes together for that extreme sports. Again, you have your 1883, and it's all really, that's fully embossed in here. It's like really, I mean, as you can see here, it's a really good engraving, okay? And along the outline you have your different serial numbers and model number and Alpina, Heritage, Diver, So this is considered a diver. And I think when you take a look at the band initially, you know, the fact that it's stitched, it does have this sporty look to it though. But some people might mistake this for leather just by looking at it, because it does look kind of dressy. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of people say that divers can't be dress watches, but this one definitely looks dressy to me, especially because it's got that bronze and the brown, and it really just has that dressy look to me. It looks very classic, in my opinion. It's also not a very big watch, but we'll get into that very shortly. But this is all stitched, okay? And you have your double keepers here. And this is basically a little bit of an indentation here in the silicone for breathability, okay? And as you can see, even the buckle has the famous triangle, okay? Very, very high quality band, by the way. Feels good on the wrist. So let's go into some measurements. Really not in our way now. Is this watch seriously a 36? I need to do this again, because there is no way that this watch wears a 36 millimeter. We got to do this again. Here we go. So we zeroed it out. There we are. I was going to say, there's no way this is a 36. We are at a 41 millimeter. That's exactly where I thought this watch was. And if we go lug to lug, we're at a 50 millimeter, okay? So not a bad size. I have a 7-inch wrist, and as you can see, the watch fits absolutely perfect. The lugs are not pouring over my wrist. They're actually fitting on there extremely perfectly. So this is really a good size for my wrist. If you have a smaller wrist and the lugs are kind of coming over your wrist like this, then it may not be suited for you. So if you can't have a lug to lug of 50 millimeters, this may look a little bit too big for you. When we look at the case depth, we're looking at a pretty thin, actually, 11.4 millimeters. That's pretty thin, because typically I see 12 to 13 millimeters for an automatic movement, especially with 1,000 meters of water resistance. So, I'm sorry, 1,000 feet of water resistance. So this is pretty impressive, in my opinion, to find a watch that has this type of slender profile. We also take a look, and it also makes the argument that this could indeed be a dress watch, because it's so thin it can fit under a dress cuff pretty easily. As you can see, it actually has a domed and bezeled crystal. So this watch has no AR coating, but there is definitely no visual problems in the sunlight. With that dome crystal, it's slightly domed. It's not completely flat, but it's not completely domed. But it definitely has some beveling going on in the crystal. But the watch is readable at all angles, not a problem. You can just see a little bit of distortion within the beveling, but I think it definitely adds to the quality look of the watch. But I'm really liking this bronze look. It almost looks like almost rose goldish and bronze. It's almost like a mix between the two, but it's a really cool look. The brown dial is a little bit dark for my taste. I would have liked to seen something that maybe popped, maybe just the Alpina, or even just the markers or something to make it pop a little bit more for me, because indoors, this watch is harder to read. I think maybe if you would have done some lume, I think you definitely need to have lume on the indices. I think that is a huge thing, especially when you're looking at divers. I think these definitely need to be lumed. But again, that's just my preference. That's why I look at this more as a dress piece than an actual diver, because I just don't see any precision here. I mean, there is luminescence here at the pip, okay? There is luminescence here, and there's luminescence on the hands, but if you don't have luminescence anywhere else, you really don't know where you are on the dial. And that to me is problematic if you're going to be a hardcore diver. But this watch does seem to be durable. It does have a quality feel. It does have a bit of weight to it, but it's not heavy. It just has that quality heft to it. So that is the Alpina watch. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please click that subscribe button and that notification bell to inform you of when the next video uploads. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me, and please remember that there's always time to be kind to one another. Please take care of each other. God bless, and I'll see you guys next time on Average Joe Watch Reviews.